Hey, welcome back to another episode of Tech Talk. I am your host, Jeff Hootselle. Hey, so Tech Talk, as you guys know, we talk to people in the world of IT from all over the country and get to really interact with some interesting and fantastic guests. Today, we've got Neil Chakrabarty, who's with the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection. Neil, welcome to the show today.
Why, thank you, Jeff. It's really great to be here.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Neil. Neil, so for folks that aren't familiar with you, obviously folks are familiar with the Department of Environmental Protection, but I'd love to hear more about your role and some of the mission and the focus you guys have up in West Virginia.
So I'm Neil Chakrabarty, and I'm Chief Technology Officer there. Now there's another Chief Technology Officer over the entire state of West Virginia, and I'm not him. I'm just over the Department of Environmental Protection. And I'm real proud of our agency. We protect the environment for people so that they are able to enjoy a healthy life in West Virginia. And so we've done some really great things, and I'm really proud of our organization.
No, that's great. I'm sure we all appreciate that mission, right, and keeping folks safe. Now, you guys in particular, I know there's a couple applications that you guys have worked on recently that have had a really big impact, both on your organization and both all the constituents and the folks in the areas you focus on. Maybe if you could, just tell a little bit about some of the efforts you guys have had and a couple of those applications you've worked on recently.
Well, we have our LCAP system, and that's a really nice one. It's a mobile inspection system where people can go out and inspect landfills that have been filled up. After they're filled up, they have to be inspected and monitored. And so we wrote an application to do that. And I have a little video on that I think you guys will include. Also, too, we responded to a crisis in West Virginia with the West Virginia water crisis in 2014. And we produced a registration system in 3 months' time to be able to register owners of above-ground storage tanks. That crisis was a particular event in West Virginia that took away clean water from 300,000 people.
Right, that was in the Elk River chemical spill, I think, right? And it affected a large amount of folks.
Yeah.
And it's a big deal, right? I mean, so the application you guys developed, talk a little bit about how that's worked and how that's helped. Obviously you had that bad incident. It was horrible, and the federal government had to come in and help with taking care of folks, make sure there's remediation there, and obviously you guys are putting things into place now to help looking forward so that doesn't happen again. You mentioned the application, but talk specifically about how that works and how that would address what happened in 2014, and hopefully make sure that doesn't happen again to that scale.
So our application is called ESS, or Environmental Submission System, and it's a really great system that we developed in 2002. And so we were one of the first states to have such a system, and we were able to adapt it to do the registration so that owners of above ground tanks could register their systems with us. The impact is that basically there are tanks that are very close to water intakes for public use, and so those ones we call in the zones of critical concern, and they're the ones that we really focus on. But we register basically all the tanks in West Virginia, and it's quite a large number. I'm very thankful that we're doing this. So we're one of the first states to have this kind of regulation.
Yeah, I mean, and that's really what caused the first incident, right? It was just a small leak in a large tank there that just went on for days and days and weeks, and I think I saw residents recognize the smell. There's something different in the area. That's what kind of tipped them off.
Actually, it was a DEP inspector that found it at first. It wasn't the company, it wasn't the citizens, it was us. We had inspectors on the ground, and we found it.
Wow. Well, it's a big deal, and like I said, it just speaks to what you guys are doing and the mission and how essential it is and important. I think you hear people talk about the environmental protection all the time, and I don't want to say you take it for granted, but it's such a big factor. It's so important, and it's not until you have an incident like this that a lot of people kind of wake up and see the impact you guys are having. And talk about, you mentioned the LCAP project earlier and how you guys are monitoring through that. And so it's landfills that have been used that are now complete and filled up, and you guys have covered them over, and it looks like a normal area or body of land. But obviously that land has to be monitored. Is there a certain amount of time you have to monitor that environment?
In perpetuity, I believe. And they never really get returned to full normal use. They have to be protected and watched.
And you guys are doing photos of that. You're taking videos of that area as well. Obviously, I'm sure there's reports that you guys have to submit on a given basis. So is that really the focus of the application?
That's right. It's to be able to show, and also they monitor the gas levels that are coming out of the pipes out of the ground for their missions, to make sure that they're not, that the chemistry underground isn't changing in a direction that they don't expect. So it's a pretty detailed monitoring, and it's a pretty detailed system that we use to close up landfills once that they're full.
Yeah. So before you guys developed that application, was it pretty much just, paper reports and things that were filed, or
That's right. It was paper and pencil and clipboards, and that data is just a lot of data, and it would get lost and get disorganized, and it would be hard to go back through and see what had happened and how things had really trended and changed over time. And so that's what the need of the application was, to be able to actually provide the reporting so they could see if the levels in the gases were changing or if the shape of the land was changing over time.
Yeah. No, it's great. And Neil, I can see how passionate you are about this stuff. I know you've got a long track record in kind of the world of IT, actually probably longer than most. I think I saw from one of our conversations previously, you got your start in IT and kind of the world of coding at a pretty young age, right?
Oh, that's true. I started at age 6 in elementary school. I was going to a university for elementary school because it was a teacher's college there. And after school, my dad would pick me up and take me over to the computer center, and I would program an old PDP-8. And that was in 1968.
Sure. That's amazing. Yeah, so you got a little bit more of a head start than most, I think. And that's, again, being in 1968 especially, that's pretty unique, I think. So that's great. And you can tell it just shines through. And I know you guys have a great organization and a great team up there in West Virginia. I know you're really proud of it as far as the culture you guys have built and kind of the talent you've been able to bring in and retain. That's a question that comes up quite a bit. We talk to IT leaders, is how are they recruiting good IT talent? I think it's probably one of the biggest challenges beyond all the technology and the things that are available. And we talk about AI and automation and machine learning and all these different aspects of tech. I mean, when it comes back to it, most of the folks we talk to say their most challenging thing is kind of attracting and retaining and selecting really good talent to join the company. How have you guys approached that? What's kind of been your secret sauce there in getting good people?
So we have a particular challenge in that we don't pay very well. We have a low scale of payment that's mandated by the state. So we have to be really good to get people to come. One of the things we do is we screen people, and we try to get a lot of applicants. And I really go out and talk to people. I wear this tie that has JavaScript code on it to kind of stand out and get them to come talk to me. And then we test them to make sure that they're really technically capable before we hire them. And we test them with JavaScript code to see if they can understand and write JavaScript code. Then once they're in, we're really, what is the word? We really take care of them in terms of making sure that they have a good time and a good experience in our organization. And we make sure that they know the work that they do is valued and that people really care about the things that they do. And one of the ways is through like this show where we can showcase some of the work that we've done.
Yeah, it's terrific. Listen, if you can't tell that somebody's passionate about their job in IT, if you're incorporating into your wardrobe and coding into that, then you obviously love what you do. So that's a great thing. So Neil, I know we're running out of time. This is probably the last question, but just tell us if there's one other thing about the organization that you're probably most proud of that you want to highlight to folks that are watching this, like you mentioned. What is it about the Department of Environmental Protection up in West Virginia do you want folks to know about?
Well, I guess I'll take it back to our particular role. We named ourselves Information Technology Support, and the reason we did that was to make sure that everybody understood that's what we're about, is to support the organization. In the previous years, there was more of a dictatorial nature to IT, and it would tell people what to do and how to do things. And we turned that around, and we said, no, we're about support. We're about making the organization be able to do everything it's supposed to do and to help them to do it in the best way possible. And I think that's one of the things I'm most proud about as a leader. When I came in, I changed that so that we're more about support and more about making the organization work well.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, and I think that's when IT really works well, right? When the company sees you as an enabler and helping make things happen, not somebody that's doing technology for technology's sake or somebody that's, a roadblock to getting things done. So that's awesome. I think it shines through. So, well, Neil, thanks so much for joining us today. I could spend an hour with you, but we only have a couple minutes this morning. But really appreciate your time, and thanks for all you guys are doing out in the community there.
Well, thank you, Jeff. I truly appreciate the chance to speak.
You got it. Hey, and thank you guys for joining us as well on Tech Talk. If you guys want to see other interviews like Neil's, you can log into auditmax.com and see our whole library of past interviews. You can also listen to this interview on our podcast, wherever you find your favorite podcast. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.